What it do? What's good, YouTube? It's your man Jay Raider, Jay Raider TV, Dre Day, back for a special edition episode of Common Conscience. This is our presidential debate recap. Presidential debate number 2 went on last night, and we got some thoughts about it, man. How you feeling?
Man, it was way better run for sure. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the moderator because she held it down I don't know if it was just the fact that they knew that the mics were muted, so it wasn't really a point. But even in the points of time where their mics weren't muted and each of them was talking, she was real good at kind of taking back control of what was going on and even kind of directing them back to questions whenever they got off track. So salute to her. I don't know if that was that and the muted mics, I think, changed the tone of the debate.
Yeah, and they were both needed for sure. If y'all watched the first one, I hope you did. A train wreck of sorts, if you ask me. But definitely needed a different, maybe not necessarily a different moderator, but a more involved moderator. We can just tell just from doing podcast episodes that sometimes it's real easy for one of us to get off course, and the other one's needed to get the other one on course, and it's just as simple as interjecting whenever possible and getting them back on course. And she did a good job of that last night, particularly when President Trump was starting to veer off a little bit. She was real good about, okay, it's time to end this topic, let's move on to another one. They had a couple of instances there where they tried to keep going and she let them go for another 10-20 seconds, but she was always back in there getting them back on track. And you could tell that too that that each candidate's advisors had to have been in their ear since last time. Like, look, bro, you had us out here looking bad last time. Let's try to reel it in.
let's make this look a little better. I think on Biden's part, it helped him to not be interrupted. You know what I'm saying? Because, I think the strategy from Trump's campaign the first time was to interrupt him, get him off his train of thought, make him look like he can't keep a thought. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then live with whatever else happens. But I think because of Trump's demeanor, it just came off like Trump's just an asshole and a bully. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't really do what they wanted to do. So they were like, okay, this time we're going to have to do it differently. You definitely saw Trump tone it down a lot, at least in the beginning. If you watched it from beginning to end, he still, like, slowly, you know what I'm saying, like, went off the rails but even the level of gone off the rails that he went wasn't right. Nearly what it typically is.
Right. You got the impression the first debate that his strategy was just to talk over Biden, just because he felt like if he got a point out, he wouldn't be able to rebuke. So he just kind of talked over him, kind of like your nagging ex-girlfriend used to do when you used to be in a relationship with her and y'all would get in an argument and she would just talk over you because she knew she didn't have a point. That's what he came across as last time. So luckily they brought that in, reeled that in a little bit. Topic-wise, obviously they touched on coronavirus response again. Your feedback on what Trump had to say about that moving forward?
I think the thing about Donald Trump and coronavirus to me is that no matter what he says, okay, this is the best way I could put it to you. If I handled something poorly and that's why we are in the space that we are, in order for you to believe that I'm really going to take it seriously and do the right thing going forward, I would have to admit to you that I did wrong to begin with, or else I don't have the foundation to make those kind of decisions. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of think that's Trump's whole thing on coronavirus. And I think that he tries to downplay it like it's not that big a deal. It's only been, you know what I'm saying, so many people have died, blah, 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 blah. But there was a moment where Trump said, like, Americans are learning to live with it. We're learning to live with this. And Biden looks at him and says, no, we're learning to die with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're dying from it. You know what I'm saying? So it's I think that in more ways than not, he just kind of showed his hand more. He didn't show us nothing we didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Right. Which is that he don't have any intentions on doing anything but blaming other people for, he's like, look at the Democrat cities and the Democrat governors, and those are the states that, you know what I'm saying, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's never any accountability. There's never any real plan. It's just Word vomit.
Right. That's one of the big takeaways that I got from one thing Biden said, because he said something that you said in our last episode was, it's a lack of having a plan for most people that Trump has shown. That, look, at least if you had implemented the wrong plan and stood behind it and went with it and it just didn't work, at least we could say that you had a plan and you believed in it enough that you went for it. It just happened to not work. But we haven't even had that luxury of having a plan. And Biden's claiming that he's got a plan moving forward to help kind of curb the effects of this thing. And it was said in a debate last night that the moderator asked Trump, she said, there are some experts that have a timeline of us moving into having a vaccine ready in a few months. We could be even masked up in social distancing through all of 2021, and asked him to compare that to his own timeline, to which he was like, well, I think our timeline is faster than that, but didn't provide any evidence or any examples on how he's gonna do that. So I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is, like you said last time, like you can't show us any quantifiable data about what we're going to do about this. All you continue to say is we're learning to live with it. We've learned to live with it. We have lived with it. We've got a plan. It's going to be huge. Yeah. No, like that's not going to work. And Biden came forth and gave us examples of what his plan was. Unfortunately, he's got to be elected to be able to do any of that stuff. So, what I thought was interesting was, he did mention, Trump is saying we've learned to live with this, and then Biden's like, well, we shouldn't have to learn to live with this. What we're doing is we're learning to live with people dying from this, and that's not okay. Yeah. And then he moved on to making a point that I kind of touched on our last episode as well. Like, what do you have to say for the fact that all of the hot button COVID cities are in red states? And dude just never responded to that. Just never responded to that at all. And there's a consistency there that needs to be touched on.
Yeah, I mean it's a fair point to be made. I think honestly, if I'm gonna say like one of my bigger criticisms of Joe Biden as far as his strategy, if you want to put it that way, is I think that Joe Biden's strategy is like don't feed the trolls, right? You know what I'm saying? So when Trump says like, you made $3.5 million off of Russia. You made all this money off, China and Ukraine and all these other places. When he says these things, right, I think Biden feels like by giving it a true response, I'm just giving life to the lie. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like he'll say one time, like, they've already been people who have proven that these things aren't true and da-da-da-da-da. But he never really defends himself or goes at, and especially when Trump starts to talk about his kids. Like, I think that in trying to be cordial, maybe in trying to be politically correct, that he's trying to like maintain like a certain candor within that space, when it's like sometimes when someone comes at your kids and comes at you personally, especially with these bullshit attacks, like those are your times, in my opinion, to be able to go back at Trump. You know what I'm saying? And say, because if it's me, bro, if Trump tells me, your son Hunter Biden got hired by Burisma for Ukraine and he got this big ass salary and he's not really qualified and all this other bullshit and he got all that because you president, my response to him is, when you became president, you just gave all your hotels and all of your assets over to your children, who still reap the financial benefits from anything that benefits your hotel brand, international or domestic. And they're literally building a road to one of your hotels in China right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to take those opportunities, in my opinion. And everything isn't we have to go high. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's like, nah, fuck you too. You know what I'm saying? Like, aside from the fact that I could talk about how you not qualified for the job all day, but if you want to talk about me as a person, then we could talk about each other's personal lives too. Right. Saying I got time for that as well.
Yeah. So there's no holds barred when it comes to that. Obviously, there's a limit, but you're saying that if someone's gonna to fire at to throw shots at the belly, then we can do that too.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying it'd be like your wife take naked pictures and put them on the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying to just Just, you know what I'm saying? We talking about how our kids benefit from our positions of power, right? That's the conversation that we having. All right, let's have that conversation.
I agree, especially if you've got valid points there that that strip the credibility of the other person for sure.
Yeah.
So the other things that they talked about, they touched a little bit on healthcare. Biden mentioned that he's going to move forward with Biden Care. And touched on how he's going to change that from what
doesn't
Obamacare
have the same
is.
ring, does it?
Doesn't have the same ring, not quite. But essentially, he's going to take elements of Obamacare and change a couple things about it and make it Biden Care. And I don't really think that, based off of what I remember, I don't think that that Trump had any type of alternative plan for that either, as far as healthcare goes.
No, none. I mean, and that's my big thing personally. When it comes to even like just that, the Republican agenda, when it comes to that, is that I'm not with anyone who wants to strip away anything that people want and need with no replacement in hand. And even if you do have a replacement, the fact that you don't want to tell me what it is until the other thing's gone concerns me. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like that once it's the only option that we're gonna have, then you'll tell us. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's just elements of that are just sketch to me. As far as Biden's healthcare plan, a lot of it is centered around the idea that if Biden wins, you will likely see the Senate turn Democratic and the House is already Democratic. It likely won't turn, even though Trump said a few times in there, we're going to take the House. Watch. I don't know by what metric Trump thinks that's going to happen, but it's not.
Yeah. That's
the least likely of all of the scenarios that could occur on November 3rd, that the Republicans take the House, but whatever. I just don't know where he's getting that from. Maybe honestly, maybe I'm gonna look like an asshole and Trump got some information I don't know and I need to look it up, but whatever. But assuming that you get Biden with the Democratic run Senate, Democratic House, actually putting together a healthcare platform that gets to pass through a little bit more untouched than Obamacare did. And then even with one thing I'll say is that honestly, Trump is right when he said that the public mandate on Obamacare was bullshit. Mm-hmm. Like, you had to pay more on your taxes if you didn't have health insurance. Like, even though it encourages people to get insurance, like, it's just not the move. People don't really fuck with being taxed for not having something. I kind of agree with that. You know what I'm saying? But now Biden can kind of just use that information and just make it better, which is what I would like to see occur with healthcare.
Well, and I think it's the general public's, that's what we want to see with everything. Not everything is going to be perfect when it first is built. All we want to see is implement something, like we've said time and time again, have a plan, execute the plan, implement a policy, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, but knowing that at least you have a foundation there that you can change this and change that and tweak XYZ about it and continue to make improvements on it. What we're seeing on the other side of the aisle is we just want to strip that and not replace it with anything, and we're back to square one where we were 12 years ago with nothing. And I just don't... is that the right answer, to just completely undo everything that somebody has done? I don't believe so. Unless you just know that absolutely everything about it is trash, which you can't really say about anything. There are good things about nearly everything that's ever put in place. And unless you just absolutely 100% disagree with the whole thing, which, man, I don't know. I don't know how you could, to be honest. I think the right answer, regardless of who is president, is to look at the current law and the current mandate, and keep the things that you agree with, the things that are benefiting people, and not just big business and big medicine, but the things that are benefiting people, and change the things that are less desirable from your side, and just go with that. So I'm inclined to agree with Biden on that too. I will say, generally last night I was more pleased with listening to Trump speak, only because he didn't babble like a buffoon the whole time. And I mentioned to you before we started rolling that I actually thought he kind of did better than Biden in places. And your response to me was, I just don't know that I don't know that he did better. I just think he didn't embarrass himself to the degree that we expected him to. And my immediate thought was, I could see that point. It's kind of like when the white dude dunks, everybody goes crazy.
Yeah.
You know, because you weren't expecting a white dude to dunk. But,
Yeah.
you know, when I was watching it, that's one of the things I was thinking. You know, I found myself kind of like making the, well, that was all right face. But I think
I would. This is the thing too. I would tell you to look at it this way: how much easier is it to stand up and just spout off some fuck shit versus to try and remember and insert the actual facts that are like associated with your position?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of that is what people don't realize, that you see that difference between Trump and Biden. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially and maybe I sympathize with it a little bit more because I kind of understand it to a degree. There's times where I'm trying to put together a thought, and I'm not stammering because I don't know what I want to say. I'm trying to figure out what part of it I want to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and not you specifically, but whoever I'm talking to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to. There's so many of these things are so big and complex that when you try and like squeeze your answer into 2 minutes, like I can't really explain it to you in 2 minutes. Like, so it's like, how do I just pick the the part that I think will be most impactful for you and give it to you in this space? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that is what Joe Biden is tasked with doing. Whereas Donald Trump is not even trying to answer the question.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
talking.
He's just up there talking. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just freestyling. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I see somebody tweet that, posted on Facebook or something. It was like, Trump just up there freestyling right now.
Freestyling, yeah. And you know this.
And so I do think it does, like, aesthetically, it does look, Trump looks more comfortable up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially when he doesn't try and talk when it's not his turn to talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he just like sits there and waits his turn, even though he makes those little stupid ass bird faces. I don't know what the fuck those faces are, but I get where it can look that way, but then when you kind of assess it from a substantive manner, it's like, of course it looks that way.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Is the first time we're up there, we're just kind of yelling over each other because we don't really. Well, you know, Trump's yelling over Biden because he doesn't want him to get his point across. This time, he's up there freestyling because while I was watching, I was thinking, man, this is actually a lot better than I thought it was. And then afterwards, I'm thinking, but I don't really think, I can't think of any quantifiable data he gave us to support anything he was saying. He was just arguing. And, he wasn't arguing aggressively this time, but that's really all he was doing is, well, this isn't true because this. I mean, we could all get up in front of a microphone and claim anything we want. Anybody could do that. And that's essentially all that's going on there.
Facts.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no facts at all to support it, that's the thing that you have to consider. And to kind of sum it up, to kind of wrap it up, the recap, everyone the next morning and all day today has got Biden winning the debate, obviously last night, and the national poll for Biden is at 51-43 right now. So it looks like the odds are slightly in Biden's favor. These polls are always kind of deceitful as well. They're kind of deceiving because there are a lot more people that participate in the polls than actually vote. So the voters are going to come out the woodworks on November 3rd, and who knows which way it's going to swing. But the people that are participating in, the which side do I favor polls right now have Biden with a narrow edge, and I think it's kind of going to be a nail biter, man. Oklahoma's a landslide as we expected. 57% right now.
Texas is getting close though. Texas, they don't know what Texas is going to look like right now, and that Texas is typically a red state, but it's just it's going purple, bro. We looking like we might. It's no telling. What I was gonna say is this one thing. There's one thing I wanted to add on that debate though. When they was talking about climate change, Joe Biden did something. Joe Biden did two things tonight that I actually did not expect him to do, and that I in a way commend him for doing. The first one, he did a more thorough version of it in another interview not long ago, but he verbalized that the crime bills that they passed in the 80s and 90s were a mistake and they did not have the intended consequence, which is something that for the longest he was just like, no, they didn't do that. This didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just admitting that, like, hey, like, we fucked that up and we intend to do better than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's actually value in verbalizing that instead of making people assume it. You know what I'm saying? And then the second thing he did, and this was a more bold thing to do, is when asked about climate change, he said, yes, we are going to pivot away from oil. Like, in a very clear way. And being in Texas, I know people here, and even in Oklahoma, you know, people who work on those rigs, and they wouldn't vote for Biden because of oil. They're like, oh, he's going to take oil. But this is the thing that I would say to them. I feel like you're not listening closely. The pivot to clean energy is supposed to create millions of high-paying jobs, good-paying jobs, as Biden puts it. But they are quality jobs. Who do you think is going to do it? Do you think that the people you think the servers are going to do it? Like, as a server, do you think that I'm going to, like, learn how to climb up some tall-ass shit, some fucking wind turbine and deal with this? I'm not doing that shit. It sounds real similar to what you do, though. Without all the cancerous chemicals around you all the time and the environmental hazards to the communities that you and your family live in. So, like, I understand the fear of change, but just know that, like, this isn't a transition that can even happen without you. You will absolutely be included. Most of you are white, so you have no problem. You'll be supervisors. You'll come in as supervisors with government jobs. Come on. Don't be dumb about it. Just think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you know, the big thing is just people just don't like change, man. And I
know change is scary.
But that's what the answer is.
Yeah, I know change is scary, but that's the biggest, most irrational fear to me in this election. Is like people who work in the oil industry afraid for oil to go away. Because, like, we still need power. Y'all will still be the workforce. Your job will just be better. You know?
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. So a parting thought here is, I found this pretty funny because it's usually a landslide, but I don't think it's usually this big of one. Washington, D.C., 88% for Biden, 10% for Trump. The place where they make laws.
Well, you know what they call, they call D.C. Chocolate City, though. You know what I'm saying? The D.C. you see is white, but the D.C. you visit, D.C. is
right. Yeah.
It's very ethnic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a nail biter for sure. But I was definitely more intrigued by the performances of both. But I think that was largely due to the mandated muted mics and a more aggressive moderator. So shout to them for making that happen so we could at least get some type of tangible, coherent argument between the two of them, somewhat coherent argument between the two of them to kind of help us make our final last-minute decisions if we were on the fence there at all. So glad that went down. Unfortunately, we only got 2 debates. Well, really 1 to choose from. But go to the polls on November 3rd, but please put your face in an article or 10 between now and then and find out who's going to help make the biggest difference on your hot-button issues. Don't vote blind. Please don't vote blind. Just because your mom and daddy and them always vote red, please don't go vote red. Same thing for blue. Man, educate yourself, dude. I mean, there's
vote
nobody,
on what you believe in.
There's nobody who's there's nobody who's gonna have everything that you believe on their docket. So find out who's gonna make the biggest change for the things you believe in most, and unfortunately, choose the better option. There's not gonna be a perfect one, and there never will be. Choose the better one. Parting thoughts, Dre Day?
Man, that's really it, man. I think we covered most of it. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, there's always a lot there. I looked it up real quick because her name was fucking kept slipping my mind. Kristen Welker, that's her name. The moderator. Just wanted to go ahead and give her shout out by name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Other than that, man, like you said, bro, if you could go vote, look, like I said, in the other episode, bro, voting ends November 3rd. Nigga, it's election season right now. You know what I'm saying? In almost every state, no matter where you are, you could go vote early in person right now. It'll be a shorter line. It'll be easier. You can get that shit in. You know what I'm saying? And fuck with us, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're gonna post this shit
For sure.
on the podcast platform, you know what I'm saying, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Common Conscious. I'm gonna throw this as a bonus episode on FTS, Apple, Google Podcasts, and all this shit is everywhere. All your streaming platforms, F.T.S. Type that shit in, it'll pull up. Subscribe, like, rate, review. Jason, the YouTube, what's the YouTube shit?
You know, it's J Raider TV everywhere. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, J Raider TV. My guy, Dre Day 4536. Yes,
You know it.
voting ends November 3rd, but it is open early. However, don't go until you're ready. Get ready first and then go vote. Check us out. And by the way, we get this to y'all for free, so all you got to do is subscribe. I'm talking about J Raider,
You know what
Dre
I'm
Day,
saying?
we out of here.
Get your booty to the pole.